Fifth time around, the Blue Bomber's back. I can remember being so disappointed that Australia never saw Mega Man 4, and my eyes just about bulged out of my head when I saw that Mega Man 5 was on the way. The story in this one has an interesting twist. Proto Man, who for the last two games had been ambiguous and mysterious, apparently decided to side with Dr. Wily, kidnapping Dr. Light and sending his minions on a rampage. It's a neat little twist, which of course turns out to be completely false when the real Proto Man turns up to reveal the fraud. Oh no, spoilers! The people who wrote the cartoon show apparently liked Proto Man as the bad guy, so that's the role they had him play.
No! I must destroy Mega Man. He's my brother.
Let's see who the big bad bosses are this time. Stone Man isn't really made out of stone, he's made out of bricks. That's a weird misnaming there, something that would happen quite a lot throughout the series. Anyway, he's in a high altitude mine. Gravity Man has one of the coolest Mega Man levels ever, with switches that flip the gravity literally upside down. You even have to press up and jump to slide. I love this level. Crystal Man is in a giant crystal fortress. No surprise there. Napalm Man is literally a tank. He's got a base deep in the jungle surrounded by robot tigers, and he deploys napalm bombs into Mega Man's face. Gyro Man has the token up in the air level with elevators, platforms, and lots of instant death drops. He also cheats by disappearing up into the clouds during his boss battle. Starman, like Gravity Man, also has a stage where you have to relearn a lot of your Mega Man platforming skills, since it's set on a space station where there's very little gravity, and a single jump can send Mega Man right to the top of the screen. Wave Man has a water-themed level where you go from jumping on bubbles to riding a jet ski to the finish line. And Charge Man is another boss that was wrongly named. He's a train. He should have been called Train Man. Why Charge? What does that mean? Anyway, his level is set on a big train. As Mega Man games go, number 5 is a real divider among the fans. Some think it's the best ever, some think it's the worst. I think Mega Man 5 will be remembered for a few things. One is its really inventive level design. The Capcom guys really used their imaginations to come up with some cool ideas for the first 8 stages. Unfortunately, once you get beyond them, it becomes really kind of bland, like they'd already used up all their good ideas and so they just threw anything together for the second half of the game. It's disappointing. Another thing that Mega Man 5 will be remembered for is its absolutely useless set of weapons. Sure, if you find the boss's weakness, it dies quicker, as always, but outside of the bosses, the weapons are terrible. Even on the bosses, some of the weapons are terrible. Case in point, even though Charge Man is weak against Stone Man, the weapon is so difficult to wield, it's easier just to use the normal Mega Buster. Probably the worst set of weapons in any Mega Man game. The third thing I think is in Mega Man 5's legacy is the very cool music. I've got to admit, some of the tunes in this game are amongst the best in the whole series. I especially like Gyro Man and Starman's music. I don't know, there's just something about Mega Man 5 that feels a bit cheap and rushed to me. For the first time since Mega Man 1, there's not a special screen showing Mega Man getting his weapon. All we get's this spinning sprite. Lame. All of the bosses in Proto Man's castle are small and boring, and it just feels like all of the potential was there in the first 8 stages, but it just got rushed to beat a deadline.
There's a couple of other new bits and pieces as well. The main one is if you can find a hidden letter in every level, then you unlock Beat, the bird, which can be occasionally useful, even against the last boss. The Mega Buster's had a bit of an upgrade as well, and now it's taller, which means it's better. And there's also a super arrow which Mega Man can ride on and is fairly useless.
All up, I prefer Mega Man 2, 3 and 4 to this one. Still, even an average Mega Man game is an awesome game, and this one still stands the test of time. Oh, we laugh at this game. Gradius is fine, but this is nicer. Wait, what? Okay, here's the thing. Parodius is crazy. It's absolutely insane. Even the title says nonsense fantasy. I actually played Parodius long before I even played a Gradius game, so I didn't even realise it was a spoof. I just thought it was a hilarious shooter that made no sense. There's 4 characters to choose from. You can have Vic Viper, the hero from Gradius, but that's boring, right? Then there's also the Red Octopus, There's Twin Bee, another cameo from another Konami shooter, and the Penguin, Pentaru. He's my favourite. There are a number of things that make Parodius awesome. The music is made up of remixed versions of classical tunes, which is amazing. Everything in this game is random and completely nonsensical. If you're lucky enough to collect a white bell, you get a loudspeaker attached to the front of your ship which spits out nonsense words to damage your enemies. Everything is just crazy and I love it. Some of the bosses have to be seen to be believed. Here's a sample of some of them. The core gameplay is identical to Gradius. As you collect power-ups, you can choose how to upgrade your ship, eventually turning it into a powerhouse of awesomeness, with shields and mega weapons and a collection of little options following you around. I always wondered, why is an extra ship called an option? Never got that. Depending on what difficulty setting you choose, Parodius can be cripplingly hard. It's one hit kills all the way, and sometimes there's stuff just flying all over the place and it's hard to see what's actually going on. It is pretty thrilling to survive some of this insanity though. And if it's too much, you can just bump the difficulty down and the game's not that hard. I love Parodius. I love that it makes no sense and that it's so distinctly Japanese. The graphics and the music are wonderful, and I find myself enjoying something like this much more than any of the serious shmups. One of Konami's best. I knew that sometime this year I would have to play a Bomberman game. After all, it was in the 90s that Bomberman came into popularity. The tricky part was deciding which one to play. There were 5 Bomberman games on the Super Nintendo alone, 3 if you lived outside Japan, and there's been over 30 games released over multiple consoles across the decades. In the end, I decided to go for the PC Engine version, Bomberman 94. For one, because it's a version I never played before, and 2, because it was available on the Virtual Console. There's no way you could ever look at a Bomberman game properly on your own though, so I invited a couple of friends round for some multiplayer fun. Basically, Bomberman is Bomberman is Bomberman. Whichever version you choose, you're pretty much getting the same game, and Bomberman 94 is great fun with lots of people. There's a good variety of levels to ensure that you don't get bored too quickly, and this was the first time Bomberman was joined by his pet kangaroo, Rui. Apart from giving you a free life if you get blown up, the Ruies have different abilities themselves depending on what colour you get. There's also the one-player mode, which is pretty decent. I didn't feel compelled to play to the end, but it's a bit of fun. Playing Bomberman on my own just feels kind of wrong though. One thing that definitely goes against this game though is the repetitive music. In multiplayer mode there's only ever one song that plays constantly, and it drove us slightly insane within the first 20 minutes. Another thing to bear in mind if you're thinking about downloading this is that the menus haven't been translated from Japanese. It's not hard to figure out what each option means, but we had to do a bit of guesswork to start off with. Of course, Bomberman 94 stands the test of time. You can have up to 5 people playing it at a time, and it's a great party game. Bomberman Generation on Cube has usually been my Bomberman game of choice, but I don't mind mixing it up with some old school games when they're this much fun. Another week down. Next week, it's the return of the legend, and a latter-day NES licensed game. Peace out.